I always tell people who are studying physio that if you're studying physio for the money, don't do it. Because you are going to be miserable and you are going to complain your whole career. You're just going to be miserable.
Hello everyone, welcome back to MedChats with Becoming Dr. Andy, where I sit down with health sciences students and health professionals to chat more about their careers and their journey through healthcare. On today's episode, I am joined by Sibile Mthembu, who is a qualified physiotherapist who graduated from University of Cape Town in 2021, and she's here to share with us her experience ever since she graduated and how she's finding her feet in the workplace. Hi Sabrina, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. And yourself?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for coming here and having a chat with me. I know a lot of people are going to benefit a lot from our chat, especially those who'd like to study physiotherapy or the ones who are currently studying physiotherapy and just want to know more about what happens after university. But before we start our chat, I just want you to briefly explain to those who have no idea about what physiotherapy is, explain what the career is in a nutshell.
Okay, so physiotherapy is physical therapists who use movement, basically just physical intervention to help and treat people to return back to baseline function. Mm-hmm. So we treat people that range from cerebral palsy, kids to range to strokes, people who just had surgeries like total hip replacements and total knee replacements, and we also do a lot of health promotion as well.
That's a great explanation. So I just want to know briefly, like, how was the transition from being a student in university to actually being a professional, like working as that profession?
So my transition wasn't quite as easy. I didn't get my choice of placement that I wanted.
Okay.
All five choices I picked, I didn't get. So it was quite hard for me because even the province was, it's not that it wasn't familiar, but I have family there, but it wasn't in the area that
you wanted.
Yes.
Okay.
So from transitioning from here to there, having to find my feet, knowing how to work around rural because it's under-resourced, so you need to work with what you have. Yeah. So your theory and your knowledge from university comes into hand because all those equipments and resources that you had don't come into play. As I've said, we are physical therapists, yes. So we use movement and most of our hands to treat individuals with certain conditions.
Okay, so what I'm getting from this is that you didn't get the placement choice or the choice that you wanted when it comes to community service, and that kind of like threw you off basically. Yes. Because I mean, I can imagine now you adjusting from moving from a student to actually working, and also you are adjusting to living in a province you've never lived before, especially in an area that you've never been. Worse, it is a rural area that is under-resourced. So I can understand how like you felt probably isolated. Tell us how you were able to deal with that. How were you able to cope? How were you able to actually adjust?
So as physical therapists, we don't work alone. We work within a multidisciplinary team, so which includes occupational therapists, speech therapists, audiologists, you name it, dentists, doctors, everything else. So it was quite easy because as we work very closely together, so it was quite easy to make friends and gel. So everyone there was very nice, you know, they have spirit of Ubuntu, you know. So everyone was very welcoming. So it made it easy to transition and feel welcomed in that area. So the transition between university and community service was quite different in terms of there's no one who's over your shoulder. You're trying to get marks to do a certain thing. You need to treat a patient a specific way to appear a certain way to the supervisor or anything like that. Literally there, you're on your own and you're literally figuring things out on your own. I must say that even when I did finish undergrad physiotherapy, I felt like I didn't know anything, and you know, I was just, community service is my year to learn, you know, experiment with these patients and see what outcomes you get, so that in the future, you know, that, you know, when I do a certain thing, this is the outcome, and so forth and so forth. So yeah, that it wasn't really an easy transition. Also because I needed to do a lot of self-study, have to revise a lot of things, because sometimes we think that we're going to learn this and then forget about it. But you, every single time, even the first things I learned from first year, I still have to go
They're
over
still
it.
important.
Yes.
So basically, the idea is you're always constantly learning.
Yes.
Like this is lifelong learning.
Yes.
There's no point where you say, now I actually know everything. I'm throwing my books away. I don't need to learn new stuff. Because I think the idea that people should get is that just because you graduated doesn't mean you remember 100% of the stuff that you studied. You still need to revise some of the stuff, apply the knowledge. So don't throw your notes away, guys. Make sure that you keep them, because you're gonna need them during your first couple of years of working. Let's just talk more about your community service. So in final year, you applied, you said your 5 options, and you didn't get any of them. How do you feel about that?
I felt very stressed. I thought about not doing my community service.
Really?
Yes. Because I googled the place. So it's well, my initial place was in Pomeroy, a really deep rural area. So lucky enough, I was going around Facebook. You know, they make these groups whereby you're allowed to swap placements with students.
Okay.
So I had a CHC, which is basically like a clinic. Okay. And you know, with physiotherapy, we have different types of physiotherapy, like with pediatrics, ortho, there's neuro, all sorts of that. So being in a clinic for me wasn't something that I wanted to do, because it involved a lot of neuromusculoskeletal things, injuries and stuff.
Okay.
So that wasn't my part of physio that I wanted to do. So I didn't want the whole year to be something that's gonna, you know, drag me along. At least do something that I like to do, so that I want to be there. You know, I wouldn't have minded if it was a hospital or something like that. Okay. So in one of the groups, lucky enough, one person wanted to swap. And I got another placement, but I still wasn't happy with it. And I messaged literally everyone on that Facebook group, and lucky enough there was this one girl who said, hey, I was placed here at Ndunjambili Hospital, do you want to swap? I'm not doing my community service. And I said, oh, that's great.
Right.
And then that's the best option I could get.
Oh, okay, but still wasn't the one that you actually wanted. Now you have the place, you know where you're going. It is a new province, you've never been, it is in the rural area. Is there any kind of like preparation that you had to do? Because I can imagine now you're thinking, where am I going to stay? Where am I going to sleep? The transport and all of that. I just want to know, in terms of that, did you have to make your own plans, or that was already, you know, planned out for you?
So with me, I took the initiative to call the hospital and ask them to put me through to the physiotherapy department. I got through to the permanent physiotherapist who was there, and I asked her basic questions like, what type of patients are we going to see there? How many patients do I see per day? What is required of me? Are there certain clinics that we have to go to? Are there certain conditions like that I'm mostly seeing that I would need to revise on? And also asked her how much will I be getting paid? And
we'll get to that in a minute.
So and she was very helpful, gave me all the information I needed. I also asked her where do we stay, what are the living arrangements, do they provide transport and all sorts of things. So lucky for me, my placement, we stayed at the nearest town, so we didn't live in the
rural. Okay,
yes, because the accommodation facility within the hospital was being renovated. So they had to make other arrangements. So we stayed in Greytown, which we traveled an hour every day to in work. The morning and in the afternoon.
That was probably draining.
It was draining.
The whole year.
It was draining, but I looked at it from a different perspective. I mean, where we stayed in Greytown, there was a gym. I was happy. You know, the best shopping market was ShopRite. We didn't have Pick and Pay, all these other things.
Really?
We only had KFC, Steers, and Wimpy. That's it. So yeah, it helped me save a lot of money as well. So if you're looking to save money, go to rural.
Go to rural. Yes. Okay, so did you also get like a rural allowance?
Yes.
until that? Okay.
Yes, we got, I think it was 3,000 Rand.
Extra on top of your salary.
Yes.
Okay. And when it comes to like your transport, do they also provide transports to the hospital from where you stayed?
Yes. So with me, the physiotherapist that I called told me she doesn't stay in the accommodation, but she wasn't quite happy with the accommodation. So I thought to myself, okay, if she's not happy with the accommodation, let me also look for my own accommodation. So I found an apartment because I'm not very familiar with money and how to budget and all of that. It was my first year, earning an income and everything. So I was like, oh, okay, 3.5 is not bad. It's not bad at all for accommodation.
Okay.
And I got there, and lucky enough, my mom had a van, so she had extra furniture from home, and she bought me furniture there. So I was very privileged,
That's nice. Yeah.
And then as the months went by, I figured that the accommodation that they have was really nice. It was a two-bedroom apartment. You have your own room. You share a kitchen, of course, with another person. It was
the one she didn't like.
Yes, yes. So it was very nice. It was a very nice accommodation. I was in a gated community, security and stuff. So it was a very nice accommodation. Yeah. So I told myself, listen, it's free to stay there. Why am I?
Why are you spending extra?
You know what I mean? And that's when a lot of financial growth happens. There's a lot of things that you're gonna grow personally and financially. As the years, I'm still growing even now.
So now you had to move again from your apartment to the accommodation.
Yes. So it's not really free. So what they do is they take 900 Rand from your salary, and then that's what it would be. But basically the whole accommodation would be 1,800, and then they subsidize 900 Rand,
okay.
And then you only pay 900 Rand.
Alright, okay, that makes sense. So where did you want to do your community service?
Well, my first choice was to stay here in the Western Cape because I have a partner here in the Western Cape. And also because in the Western Cape, I had a lot of exposure to different hospitals and clinics that I preferred to stay here. And I felt that the health system in the Western Cape was far more better than other provinces.
Definitely.
So I told myself I want to stay here, and there's more resources here, and and so forth. So my first choice was to stay here in the Western Cape, and then second choice was back home in Mpumalanga, and then Joburg, and then my fourth. I didn't have a fourth option, so they make you choose 5 placements within any provinces that you want. So I only chose 3 provinces, and within those 3 provinces,
I chose 5 placements. Okay, makes sense.
So my initial placement was to be in a tertiary hospital because of the clinical exposure, and I wish someone would have told me this earlier on, because I found it very difficult to get a job afterwards, because in your CV, of course, you need to write what type of patients you saw, what exposure do you have, what experience with type of patients you have. And me being the person who wanted to go back into ICU and do all this treat acute injuries, it was quite difficult for me to get into that. And actually, I didn't get into that because I didn't have any of that on my CV. And mostly the first thing that they would ask me is, do you have ICU experience? And the only experience I have was in my undergrad years. So most of them would be like, you know what I mean? So that's just one thing that I wish someone told me.
I actually didn't know that where you do your internship or where you do your community service affects where you actually get a job, because I thought everyone had like more or less the same chance when it comes to getting a job. But then now that you're explaining it, it actually makes sense that in a tertiary hospital they would want to employ someone who has been doing their community service at a tertiary hospital because they are used to the level of work, the clinical exposure is more or less similar, compared to taking someone back from the rurals who has been, treating like I don't want to say minor, but like they don't have the same clinical exposure as compared to someone who has been working at a tertiary hospital. I think also it is such an important thing for people to think about, because I think when we think about doing our internship or community service, it's all about, is it in a nice place? Is it in town? Am I gonna get a nice apartment? Is it not far from work? You know, that kind of stuff. You don't really think more about what am I going to be exposed to in terms of like clinical exposure. How is this going to look on my CV? And I think people should, you know, start looking into that when they are applying for their ComServe. So I just want to know that now you are in this rural area, away from your family, away from your partner. Sure, you felt kind of isolated. What were your coping mechanisms in that isolated area?
So with me, I love traveling and I love exploring, and fortunately enough, with the different health professionals that we had there, I made good friends with them and we would travel often. For me, it's a different story because I've always been away from my family, because in high school I was in boarding school, and university I was in res.
So you kind of used to
I'm kind of used to it, you know. So for me, it wasn't something that was, oh, I miss home. Yes, I do miss home, and I went home in university twice, 2 to 3 times a year, and then last year I only went home once a year. And yeah, so I'm still trying to find my feet and trying to find some balance as well. And with my partner being in Cape Town, I had the luxury of people who had access to information. So this one person told me about a membership that you can have on Fly Safari. So I paid 800 Rand and I got two flights, so 1 return flight every month. So yes, so even if you need a flight for tomorrow, you book today, you already have a membership, you book, and you only pay airport taxes, which is about 100 Rand per flight.
So you pay 800 Rand, I'm taking this for myself, you pay 800 Rand a month,
yes,
and then you get a return flight every month. It's every month.
Yes.
So basically, you are getting a return flight for 800 every month.
But I was smart because there's different packages. So 800 Rand for 1 return flight. Then it jumps to like 3.2 or something. You know what I mean? Like it's different packages. So I didn't have enough money to pay that 2 point something. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna have 2 memberships. I used 2 different emails. I used 2 different emails. So my partner couldn't travel much, so he was like, okay, I'll pay for one and I'll pay for the other one. So in all I had 4 flights, which is 2 return flights per month.
What?
Yeah.
So you were able to travel back and forth twice a month?
Yes.
That is so great. Was like your work flexible that much for you to be able to visit Cape Town twice a month, like in terms of your leave days, or do you not work during weekends? How was that working out?
Hey, leave days is another story, because I was familiar with leave days, but you actually need to plan your leave days carefully, because next thing you know, you really need a leave day and you can't.
You don't have no days.
You really use them all up. Because for me, it was like, oh, I want to go here. I'm taking leave. I'm gone. You know, like, but you know, I've learned now that you actually need to plan your leave days according to what you have planned throughout the year. Okay, because sometimes you never know, someone might get sick, someone might pass on, God forbid, or something drastic might happen and you really need those leave days. So for me, like I said, I was in a rural area, wasn't close to the city or everything, so I would always have to take evening flights, which were around 9 o'clock, 7 o'clock. So I'd end work at around 4 to 5, depending on our patient load. If we didn't have a lot of patients booked, or we finished our inpatients, then at 4 o'clock I would leave, and it would take me about 2 hours to drive to the airport, and then fly to Cape Town, or if I'm going home, fly to Joburg, and then take a city bug to Nelspruit. But that was the arrangement. And then Sunday, depending if there is a 6 o'clock flight, I'd either take a flight in the morning at 6 and then get here at 8 and then, you know, take a half day at work. You know, there was different, you know, so that's how I managed that.
Alright, did you also work during weekends?
No, so with this, well, my hospital, the physiotherapists weren't required to do extra shifts. Like night shifts and weekend shifts and all of that. So we were basically only working from Monday to Friday.
Okay, that's really nice. And like, how many leave days were you given like for that year? actually in ComServe?
I think it was 21 days per year per cycle. 6 days. I'm not sure. I don't want to lie. I think it was around 10 days. I'm not sure.
No, that's fine. So, if you were to say what were the most challenging things that you had to face during your ComServe year?
I think for me, it was the fact that I was in a rural area. I knew that there were rural areas with poor people, and but I didn't understand it to that extent.
Like the whole dynamic.
Yeah, guys, this is real.
Yeah,
like, people are really like struggling out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that made it quite hard for me as a physio to treat patients because the most popular thing in rural areas are social grants and disability grants and all of that. So. My community service, I mostly learned from inpatients rather than outpatients because outpatients would come, not all of them, but most would come and say they have back pain, they can't work, they want to apply for a grant. So now when you do your assessment, nothing makes sense. You know what I mean? So it was that was one of the things that made it difficult for me and, not to say annoying, but it was like, okay guys, I'm trying to help you, the best that I can, but just come to me and tell me, listen, this is the situation, I want a grant. You know what I mean?
So people were using like their kind of like illness to get a grant, basically. Even if they're not that sick, they'll say they need a grant. Oh, that makes it, I think it is like so important to like understand the context of the patients that you are working with in that area. Because, for example, if you were to tell a person, okay, go to the gym 3 times a day, you can't, you need to check the vibe in the area that you work in because some people don't have gyms, for example.
Also, just another challenge that I had was recommending different types of exercises and things to tell patients to do, and as you were saying, in terms of understanding a person's circumstances and where they come from and all of that, simple things like telling a patient how to take care of their back, like when you sleep on your side, put a pillow in between your knee, and someone telling you that they've never had a pillow in their life, they don't know what a pillow is, telling patients, sit on a chair and bend your knee and straighten your leg, and then they're like, oh, okay, I don't have a chair, but I know my neighbor has a chair, I'll go borrow a chair, you know what I mean? So you need to make things work for what they have and what they, so for example, you tell a patient, instead of sitting on a chair, sit on a bucket. You know what I mean? It's also kind of hard if a patient has a stroke, and the only thing that they have is a bucket to pee in. In university we are not taught how to, we're taught how to treat certain conditions, but not how to fit it into different social classes.
Okay, so let's get to talk about the money. I know a lot of people actually want to know, how much did you earn? You've told us that you're able to get like a 3,000 extra for the rural allowance, but I just want to know, like, what was your main salary? Like, what is the range?
Okay, so in community service, I don't know about other health professionals, but ComServe is the richest year you'll ever be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in total, after tax, we earned 25,000. I always tell people who are studying physio that if you're studying physio for the money, don't do it, because you are going to be miserable and you are going to complain your whole career. You're just going to be miserable. I understand that some people are doing physio because they heard about it, something close to medicine, they're trying to break through poverty cycles at home and all of that, but if you are really doing it just for the money, you're going to have a hard time. Physiotherapy requires you to have some passion and interest in the human body and recovery and all of that. So you really need to rethink it if you're doing it for the money.
Did you struggle like financially? Did you find that the money is not enough, or what exactly, what are you trying to say?
Well, considering that I didn't have a lot of expenses in my first year, I mean, the only expense you would have is rent. So there's not much that you can inquire, like debt and stuff, in the first year, unless you were paying off student loans, which I wasn't, because I was with Department of Mpumalanga. I had the bursary from Department of Mpumalanga. I had that whole money all to myself.
Okay.
And fortunately for me, my mother had an extra car, so that's why I was able to travel around. So the only thing that I really had to pay for was insurance, petrol, and like I said, I saved a lot of money because I was in a rural area. There's nothing to do. So I mostly just saved the money for myself, and it helped me a lot because at the end of the year, it was hard for me to find a job. I had no job for about 3 months. So the money that I saved up helped me.
Really helped you. Yes. Okay. In your words, do you think like that money is enough, or it was enough for you because you were in a rural area? Do you think if maybe you were in the city, it was gonna be enough, or anything like that?
I'm in the city now, and I'm gonna tell you it's not enough.
It's not enough.
I almost have to find myself locuming at other places or the same practice that I'm working for to earn an extra 4,000 rand somewhere here and there. But still, it's still not enough, and usually doesn't last me the whole month. So during this year and the last year, I've learned how to budget and how to work around my finances, and stick to the budget. So it takes a lot of hard work and self-discipline, and
okay. Let's talk about how you were able to navigate through unemployment, because I know a lot of people are not familiar with a health sciences professional being unemployed, because they think, if you went to med school and now you're unemployed, there's no hope for the rest of the faculties, because in health, that is where they need a lot of workers. But it happens, even doctors get unemployed. So I want to know, how were you able to navigate through that, and how were you able to navigate through job applications?
Okay, so like I said, at my comm facility, we had a permanent physiotherapist. I was lucky enough to have someone who I was working with, because some people actually have to go to the hospital and work alone and have to work around the dynamics of managing a physiotherapy department. And you just come from undergrad. So I was fortunate to have a permanent physio there. So she was guiding me along the way, and around October, November, that's when she started helping me look for specific websites, like a website called Classified Physios. That's where people usually post, hey, we're looking for locums, hi, we're looking for a permanent physio. Also, I can just post and say, hi, I've just finished this and I'm looking for a job here and there. So she taught me around how to look for jobs on government websites and all of that stuff. So I applied and didn't get anywhere. And it got very stressful because it got to December and I still nothing. So this is where the money that I saved up came in, and my partner told me, listen, I know, these things do happen. So I'm also a model, so I could only do modeling in Cape Town or Joburg, but because I'm already signed with an agency in Cape Town, I was like, let me come back to Cape Town. My partner was like, it's fine, you can stay at my place for about a month or two, and if you feel like you still haven't found your feet or you found a job somewhere else in the country, you can leave. So I was doing modeling in the meantime, have that income, and modeling is not stable,
so you get gigs here and there.
I told myself, listen, it's either I'm going to go home because this staying with my boyfriend situation is not going to work out for me in the long run, and the money that I've saved is running out. So I at least need to have enough money to have a flight ticket home. And it was really bad, and so I went on the website Classified Physios, and there was a post about a locum job. So with locums, you work on weekends and public holidays, and
it's like a part-time job.
Yes, like a part-time job. You work whenever they need you. So a practice had sent an advert there, and for a locum, and I said, okay, let me try this locum out. And then I went there, and fortunately for me, when I got there, one of their part-time physios was resigning, was leaving. So, and then they were like, hey, listen, before we post this job, do you want us to take you in, because we really did like you and all of that. So things don't come easy. You first have to locum, you have to volunteer. Most of my friends sent a lot of practices emails saying, listen, I just want to volunteer, I just want to help, where I can. And that's where you can find jobs, because it's not easy to get government jobs either. Once you get a government job, hold it for dear life.
I think this is where patient comes in. Because if you're doing this only for money, you wouldn't be able to volunteer, you wouldn't be able to just take a piss job or whatsoever. So if you have passion for that thing, you can, say, hey, I want to volunteer, hey, I want to do this, and be able to improve your CV. And I think also the important point that you mentioned is saving. Saving. Because I think as a student, when you're getting like your NSFAS allowance, you don't think about saving that much. But then life can be real after you comm serve or even after graduating, especially to those who are not in health sciences, who don't get to do like their comm serves and stuff like that, who get straight to, the work field. It is very hard to also get a job. So it's important for you as a student to start saving. And if you are working as a comm serve or doing your internship, to actually budget and save for those rainy days. But yeah, I think that is really good advice. Just in closing, I'd like to know, what are your future plans? Are you planning to like further your studies or anything like that?
People talk about a 5-year plan and all of that. So within my 5 to 10 years plan, I am planning on opening my own private practice.
Ooh, yes,
yes. So now I'm just working under the guidance of my colleagues, who I've mentioned are very kind and nice and eager to teach me stuff. So I just want to grow and be able to know the different dynamics of how to work within a private practice as well. So,
what advice would you give to a physiotherapy student right now?
the first advice I would give you is that research the hospitals that you want to do your community service placement in. Know what type of physiotherapy services they do provide, so that it is in conjunction with what you want to do after community service, so that it is easier for you to get the type of job and or hospital placement that you want to go to. And the second one is that even though you are still a student, it would be very helpful for you to save some money, because in the beginning of the year of community service, when you have to go to your placement, you need to get there. First of all, you need to buy electricity, buy water. You basically just find yourself in a new place. So you need some cash to start yourself up, okay? And I wish I knew this, because it was quite tough, the January of the community service.
Thank you so much for that great advice, and thank you so much for having a chat with me, and I wish you all the best with your future. So we've come to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please like if you enjoyed the video, and please comment down below if you have any questions, and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and share with a friend who would like to know more about physiotherapy. And if you are a health sciences student or a health professional and you would like to come and have a chat with me, please write me an email on becomingdrandy@gmail.com. I'll see you again on another episode. Bye.